Hello, everybody. My name's Rick McCutcheon. I'm a Dynamics 365 MVP, and I'm here today on this panel with ClickLearn, talking about user adoption strategies for ERP implementations. So I've got some great guests today, and we're going to have an enlightened conversation. So let's go around the room and have each panelist introduce themselves. And I'll start with AJ. Tell us who you are and what you do.
Thank you, Rick. I'm AJ Ansari. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at DSWi. I'm a Microsoft MVP for Business Central. I've been working in this channel for about the last, since 2007. Suddenly I can't count. At DSWi, we're Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central and a Power BI partner. And we've been doing this since 2006. We focus primarily on North American clients, although we do have clients across the world as well. So great to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Okay, thank you. Over to you, Jim.
Hi, this is Jim Hogan. I'm the Practice Director for Client Enablement for Cohesive Solutions, and we are system integrators for IBM Maximo. We deploy Maximo into some of the highly regulated and dangerous environments, nuclear reactors, offshore oil rigs, and other areas all around the world. And I'm honored to be here.
Thank you. David.
Hi, everybody. My name is David Ives. I'm the Director for Programs at HSO International. HSO International is a Dynamics 365 finance and operations partner focused on a number of different industries worldwide, about 1,400 professionals, and have completed projects for the last 24 years on Dynamics. We cover D365, FO, CE, Power Platform, and we also do Azure Cloud transformations, a lot of Power BI projects as well. So quite a diverse set of experiences across multi-country, multi-complex rollout systems for Dynamics 365. Very happy to be here.
Great. And over to you, Mark.
Thank you, Rick. Yeah, Mark Olesen. I'm representing ClickLearn here. I am the Global Partner Manager at ClickLearn. I have a background here working with the Partner Challenge in the last 10 years. We are an independent software vendor with a software tool that improves training and documentation, accelerating the way you create and maintain any of your training and documentation. Yeah, that was it for me.
Okay, thank you, Mark. So, the first question we're going to ask the panel today is, we've been through a very interesting year with this pandemic, and we've learned new ways to deliver projects. In fact, we used to think that you couldn't deliver an ERP project remotely, but I think we learned quite differently. So let's talk a little bit about sort of lessons learned over the last year and some of the difficulties we had learning how to deliver these projects. And I'm going to start with David.
Thanks, Jim. Yeah, well, I think a number of us, so to give you an idea, I actually started HSO quite late, or just recently, but from a career perspective, I've been working in the ERP dynamic space for more than 10 years now, and on the Microsoft platform for nearly 25. And in the last year, I've seen our teams deploy projects into remote places like South Africa and Zambia and Botswana completely remotely. That's got its own challenges and a number of different issues, but we've been forced to really rethink about deployment strategies, methods, the complexity of doing this. I think what's important on the other side is obviously the OEMs are providing a lot more around cloud-based transformational services that make these deployments a lot easier. So that's not a problem for us. So deploying it is not really the issue. It's really about the end users. So how do we get the end users upskilled and the capability without having the same face-to-face, press the flesh, as we normally say, abilities to get people in the classroom and train them and work with them around definitely not the standard stuff, but the more complex processes. So working with HSO now, we've got a number of different large rollouts, and I can see that we're really missing that connection with our customers. We're really missing the opportunity to spend time and go through the complex processes with them to really unpack them and make sure that we get them right. And then obviously once we get it right, how do we make sure that everybody uses the system in the best possible way? So as we know, all ERPs are complex. The processes are it's open heart surgery. A lot of the companies are going through massive transformation. they have their own issues themselves, and our users are encumbered with running the business, changing systems, and having to do multiple tasks at the same time. So a massive challenge for us. And I think the stress of the whole situation just actually makes things a lot more complex and quite difficult to deliver in these circumstances. So what we're finding definitely is that there's a lot more complexity. We're finding a little bit more challenges in terms of people and their ability to consume this amount of change, and how we deliver and how we do things has to be adapted. So yeah, big changes for us as a system integrator working in this complex environment.
Okay, thank you, David. Jim, over to you. What are some of the lessons learned from the last 12 to 14 months?
Yeah, these last 12 months.
Can I come in quickly here, Rick? I know we're going to edit this out, but I think to be able to have big pictures and we can change through who is talking, I think we need to shrink down your PowerPoint, your slide, because I think the recording will be much better person to person when each individual talks, if that makes sense.
I don't know how to do that.
If you just stop presenting your slide instead, and we just have everybody's webcam on, because otherwise your slide will be the full screen.
So when we did this before on go to webinar, what happens is we end up on a box. The four of us will be down the slide, and this on the side, and the slide will stay separately.
Yeah.
You want me to turn the slide off?
Yes, please. Sorry about that, guys.
By the way, Dave, that was a great answer. It's like if Rick comes to me, I don't know how to top that one. Like, don't come to me, don't come to me.
Yeah, there we go, Rick.
Okay, Jim, let's get going again. So Jim, what are some of the lessons learned over the last 12, 13 months during this pandemic?
I think the biggest lesson learned for us is, one, we had to establish a mute jar because we're tired of hearing you're on mute. So if you speak and you're on mute, it costs you $1. When we all get together, we'll spend the money. I think that's the big one. But two, kind of like what Dave said, is we deploy into highly regulated areas, nuclear reactors, offshore oil rigs, and there's a key component for in-person learning, which was completely wiped away. So for us, the big lesson learned is, how do we measure the engagement of the learning of the folks that have to understand the processes that we're changing? And we had to really break our learnings down into these small micro learnings in bite-sized chunks, and establish rooms no bigger than 5 or 6 people using Teams to really understand how they're using the system and working in the system. And the other big lesson learned is a simple one, is we had to get people to turn the cameras on. And they weren't used to just turning a camera on. And then once we started to get the camera on, we could start building the relationships. You can talk with your hands again, you can see head movement, and just those simple things that we take for granted by sitting on a whiteboard and drawing and glancing across the room to see how people are reacting. Those are really two of the big ones for us.
Yeah, I think that's a great point of, I'm still on meetings today, and it seems like some companies, have that culture where the cameras are all off, right? Yep. And it just seems like you're talking into dead air, and what a difference when we're together talking and, moving and things. Okay, AJ, over to you. So you're the Business Central expert. You must be one busy dude. So what are the lessons learned over the last 12 months?
Sure, Rick. Yes, it's a good time to be a Business Central partner. I think we primarily deal with small and medium businesses, right? And I think one of the challenges that we faced was that we had to find a way to meet our customers where they are without physically going to where our customers are. And while we ourselves were pretty adept at using technologies like Microsoft Teams and using all sorts of virtual meeting environments, because we've got people spread out across the country. We've got about half of our workforce in Houston and about the other half of the workforce kind of scattered across various other cities. And so from that perspective, we felt we were probably reasonably prepared for it, but we had to find ways of doing things differently for our customers. And a lot of that involved doing things other than Business Central. Suddenly we were Teams experts. Suddenly we were trying to teach our customers how they could adopt and adapt to the types of technologies they needed to be able to meet us. And I think we learned that all of a sudden we were the quote unquote IT people, right? I think at home, one of the that you probably all face this within your families. Anything goes wrong with a computer, you're suddenly the IT person. It doesn't matter that you're working with an ERP system or you work with ClickLearn. To them, it's you work with computers, you're the IT person, and all of a sudden we don that IT person role. So we learned that we are. I think we are more than just an ERP implementation partner for them. I think we're more than just a trusted advisor in that domain of business assistance, but that we can be so much more, and we can improve our relationship with clients in many other ways. I think we're all better off maybe in some ways for this pandemic, because we now have, we can meet our customers wherever they are without having to travel to their offices. Teams is going to live on even after this pandemic is long over.
Yeah, I think we've all become Teams experts, right? Because we've had to learn how to really use it in a way where we're all working out of Teams and folders and shared documents. So it's really escalated our own digital transformation along with our customers. Mark, is there anything you'd like to add?
No, I think it's absolutely right. Like definitely Teams is one thing, right? We have also got a lot of requests on these things, right? Even AJ mentioned family. I even have family reaching out to me as well, like my aunt, like, oh, we are implementing Teams. Don't you guys know anything about it, right? And we had this challenge here actually inside ClickLearn, where we wanted to see how much we actually could create on Teams in a day for our customer success managers. And luckily I was able to share that. So we do have some content and so forth, but definitely in ClickLearn, we have always tried to be an online organization since we are delivering and improving on user adoptions. We from the beginning had a political decision here where we wanted to be an online organization. I'm really happy to see how clients are adapting it more. I don't think for the partners, it has been pretty common that we have always been distant from each other, sitting in different time zones and so forth. But actually seeing the clients adopting this and taking in, and it's becoming, day-to-day work for them to actually talk with their software IT providers online and having these organizations. As AJ is mentioning, we can now handle 6-7 meetings a day without traveling and these things, and that really is improving and being able to support clients better for us as well.
Thank you, Mark. So when I look at this whole world of what we call user adoption, it's kind of, to myself, it's kind of broken down into 3 parts. And I spent my career in CRM, so it's a little different than ERP. But it's really about how do we go out and do a discovery, understand requirements, how do we build this thing, and then how do we deploy it so we get that user adoption from it. So let's talk a little bit about sort of this working remote. And what are some of the tools that we've used? And of course, we're going to talk about ClickLearn here today. But how can we do that? How can we go out and get those requirements, build the right thing, and actually get people to use it? AJ, let's start with you.
Perfect, Rick. So I think from a requirements gathering perspective, we've long focused on sending some of our best people out there to meet our clients and understand a day in their lives, or a week in their lives is probably more appropriate, right? And there's so much information that we gather during that week. It's, I think, from down to the nitty gritty of where a process starts and where a process ends, where the bottlenecks are, where there's room for improvement. Because an ERP implementation is, I think anybody who's been through one can appreciate and sympathize. It's not just about deploying a new system into an existing organization. It's also about improving processes, right? Otherwise, you're just repeating the same old practices, good or bad, in a new system. So I think for us, though, one of the things we found is everybody, it's like a restaurant type of an environment, in that if you go into a restaurant and you're served by server A, you get an experience. Server B, you might get a different experience. And server C, you get a different experience. And our goal was to make sure that our clients are getting a similar and a level experience across the board. And so that meant creating a repetitive kind of a practice that all of our customers, how do I put it? Let me kind of maybe start back a little bit here. You're creating something that's repeatable. I think that's where I was going, not repetitive as much as repeatable. Creating a discovery document, so making sure that we're capturing all the same pieces of information in a very similar format, so that the consultants on our team who then benefit from and look at this document to create a implementation plan can follow it, so that when our customers look at this implementation plan, they follow it. And then as we move into the process of the implementation as well, that's where a tool like ClickLearn really comes into play, because we've got a similar situation. Our customers, especially in the SMB side, have a limited budget, but they still expect a premium experience. They're investing in a premium product like Dynamics 365 Business Central. How do we take what's covered in a single training session and then make it accessible for repeat use? The traditional tool was video, and that was great, and it still is. But scrubbing through a 3.5 or 4.5 hour video to find a process of doing drop shipment, it's hard, because maybe you're talking about it for 30 seconds. So now somebody's scrubbing through a 4-hour video trying to find that 30 seconds or 5 minutes of video clip. It's a lot more convenient when we take the processes that we're creating for our customers, and no two customer deployments are the same. There's multiple ways to drop ship, multiple ways to sell and purchase, and taking that specific way we do it and into a tool like ClickLearn and creating a documentation which is in some ways specific and bespoke for them. Now, are we perfect at it? Are we doing that in every implementation? Not yet. But I think the first step is recognition of the necessity and the need for a great tool. And the second step is slowly bringing that into practice. I think we're kind of at step 2. We're not quite at the step 3 where we have fully adapted, and we're are there. We're not at the top of the hill yet.
And I'm sure Mark is going to help you get to the top of the hill, so you'll get there soon. So Jim, over to you. Let's talk a little bit about the process of discovery, build, and adoption, and how do you use a tool like ClickLearn really to work through that process with your customers?
Yeah, I think one of the key things for us before the pandemic, we were always on site. It's kind of like what AJ was talking. We could observe, right? And so now the observation component went away immediately. So a couple of things we had to do is, one, where our workshops may be 5-6 hours at a time, we had to make a strategic change to say a workshop can be no more than an hour long, period, end of story. And in that hour, we got to get right to the point. And what we did as a company is we practiced last April before we went into clients and really understood what's the role that our team was going to play. So we had a panel like we had now with 5 people in a workshop. There was a commentator, there was a scribe, there was someone that was observing what was going on, and there's someone that's also mimicking the process using ClickLearn. And so we were starting to see, and so at the end of the workshop, we already had artifacts being produced that the client can come back and say, yes, this is notionally correct, or no, it's not. And so that really made a change for us, but I think as a company, made a change for the better, because now our workshops are shorter. The client has something to see and feel immediately, and they feel like the value they're getting, whether they're a small business or Fortune 100, they're starting to see value immediately, which is an absolute key.
And I think you hit on something there that's really important, because if you fly into a site, you're there for an 8-hour discovery session, and by 1 o'clock in the afternoon after lunch, the energy is completely drained out of the room. Yeah. Right? And you still need to get through and do this documentation. But I think by being able to break it down and saying, okay, we're going to meet an hour a day for the next 2 weeks to break this down, you're probably going to move a lot quicker and get actually a lot better documentation.
Yeah, I think we did. And I think there's a secondary benefit of all this. For most of us that run consulting companies and integrators, we always fly in on Monday. We fly home on Thursday, which means Monday's not a productive day. Thursday, we just want to go home and see our spouse, our kids, our dog. But now we can actually work first thing Monday morning. We can work Thursday afternoon. So now all of a sudden our workday has more capacity, and our quality of life of always being on an airplane is changed. So now we have the ability to focus, deliver, step back. I can still go see the family and then go right back to the client. So it's some added benefits.
Yes. David, over to you. From a perspective of discovery, building a solution and delivering a solution, how has sort of ClickLearn impacted that?
Sure. I mean, so if you take a look at HSO with many, many years of building large, complex ERP environments, we've definitely followed our own methodology called Accelerate. And Accelerate is a superset of what SureStep is from the Microsoft side. So we definitely follow the standard method for analysis. So we're kind of agile. We do a lot of waterfall stuff, and then we've got some iterative stuff, and then back to some standard waterfall stuff. So I like to use that term because we all like to think we're all agile, but I guess we're not really, because we follow the systems of record Gartner definition when it comes to ERP deployment. We're still a system of record. And what's important with that is that we use Azure DevOps extensively. So our business specifications, we use the Moscow methods. So we know what must have, should have, could have, etc. We classify things properly. Everything sits in our DevOps environment. It's done by stream, done by capability. All our extensions are well documented, and the team are super diligent at doing that. Now, what that means is that everything sits in Azure DevOps, and it's pretty cool, and everybody can view it. And guess what? There's an Excel thing that sits on top, and I can tell you where everything is at any time. And what's quite nice on top of that is that we follow that method. But what's very important for us is, as our customer, so our role kind of declines, and our customer role expectation increases once we get into the delivery phase. And I call that an accountability transition. And that's a very important point, because now we expect the customer, data migration, testing scripts, blah, blah. We expect them to do a lot of stuff. We also expect them to be trained. We expect them to be able to functionally test it, unit test it, and be able to do end-to-end testing in some fairly complex processes. And that's a massive challenge. And what we're using ClickLearn for now is obviously to really start thinking about how do we get not only using the task recorder, which only works if the actual process is in Dynamics 365 F&O. Quite often we split out to a treasury system, a banking system, a third-party verification system, potentially a warehouse management system, etc., etc. So the task recorder doesn't work in those scenarios. So we now are saying, right, here's a tool that gives us the ability to create the training artifacts, the user adoption artifacts, and make sure that we can transfer that accountability transition onto the customer. So quite often we're expecting the customer to do this. We haven't provided them with tools in the past. And what we're doing now is saying, let's get proactive on the front foot, help our customers put a training and adoption method in place early on, and really to help them with that accountability transition. So that's our thinking. We're still in our early days working with the ClickLearn team. We're starting to build our artifacts now, and we're starting to get going with some customers. But definitely been a challenge for us in terms of end user adoption, and something that we want to work on as HSO.
Well, I'm certainly going to steal that term "wagile" from you, because it's some of the projects, the worst screwed up projects I've been brought into to sort of unscrew and try to fix. You ask them, like, what was the project management, and you get this, well, there wasn't really any project management, so we'll call it agile. Right? And I said, well, there wasn't, anything going on here, but I like agile because we still have to bring in that waterfall component, I believe. Okay, Mark, what are you seeing from partners? How are they using ClickLearn today to deliver these remote projects?
No, I definitely see, as David and AJ and Jim are saying, right? It's a lot about actually being able to have a platform that can talk out of the systems, working across, and being able to have a system that can actually support all of the applications. We're seeing a lot from the Power Apps. We're seeing a lot from web-based applications, etc. Something customized, self-built, etc. And to be able to actually say, hey, here is one place, here is one learning portal where you can enter and access all of your document. Of course, you can divide it out to different modules. You can control it on user level, etc. But the same way to produce and create documentations across all of your platforms, and then being able to deliver it in the same content in the format that the end user wants it in, I really see as the strongest and biggest request, but also benefit for the partners that they are now able to deliver and service their clients.
Okay,
Yeah,
thanks,
Mark. Rick, I'd like to add to that real quick. For us, we have clients that are scattered in different geographies, which they don't all speak English. And one of the key things that ClickLearn has enabled us is we have a massive Portuguese requirement. With ClickLearn, I just click the Portuguese button. And so what would take us months to have translation performed is now a validation to make sure that it's correct. We don't have to send it off to a translator, because when you send it off to a translator, there may be a new release of your system, which then you send it back to the translator. What ClickLearn has enabled us to do is the speed to get something back to the client, and it may not be perfect, but the progress first perfection strategy is an absolute key. We can get things out immediately to be validated.
And it may not be perfect, but it's probably the best translated support materials they've ever had. So,
Yes.
that's the key. And when I talk to, partners and end users about ClickLearn, and I ask them how much time they've saved, I get people looking at me and go, time, it's not the time, it's what I could actually create that I've never had before, right? It's what I call the magic of ClickLearn. Okay, guys, we're coming to near the end of this program. I want to thank you for your time, and then I'll just leave it with Mark to tell us a little bit of how partners can get involved with ClickLearn.
Thank you very much, and thank you, everybody. So of course, we have our ClickLearn partner program. As you can hear, AJ, Jim, and David are already a part of it today, and I'm really happy to have you here in the panel. It's really easy to become a partner of ClickLearn. It's a free partner program that you actually can join. You can either request it through our website, or you can, of course, reach out to us through any of our forms on our website. We have made it very simple. It's really fast to become a partner. It's a one-pager document that you are signing, and then we actually have a full enablement program. So we are here to actually do all the heavy lifting, as we say, for you. We take you through, we help you with the first cases, we sell it for you, we help you implementing it, we support your clients, we support the partners, and we train everybody who needs to become what we call an author to actually create documentations here in ClickLearn.
Okay, thank you everybody for your time, and hopefully we can talk again soon in the future about what's new with your projects and how ClickLearn can help you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks very much, everybody. Okay.
Excellent. We got about 30 minutes there, Mark.
Perfect. I'm going to stop recording now.